Welcome, everybody, to this week's live stream. Now I'm back in the saddle again for the weekly live stream. And so we are here Sundays. I usually do it at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock Central Standard Time, 6 o'clock for me. Just like to welcome Blaine, Nerd Uno, Cindy. How's it going? Stephanie Beckman. How's it going? Gringos Are Us. How's it going? Actually, I'm going to show you a little something. I had a good idea of that I was going to get back in the saddle again. We settled in and we moved a lot of our stuff from Monterrey. And when we moved our stuff from Monterrey, we're trying to organize everything. We've been getting a lot of humidity in the house. And it turns out that we had what's called cantera tile. Cantera is a type of stone, and they make tiles out of this stone. And if you know anything about stones, they're porous, so they absorb humidity. And then when we initially bought the house, it looks beautiful. Cantera, they usually use it on the side of the houses as decoration or as a facade in front of your house. But hey, Dying to Retire podcast, Kat, how's it going? Congratulations, Kat. You're moving to Merida at the end of the month. We have our temporary residency. Is it okay to just go to immigration, or do we have to still fill out an FMM form now that we're residents? Okay, hold on. We have our temporary residency. Is it okay? Yeah, actually, you have to go to immigration with your temporary residency card and your you don't. It's not an FMM. Now they stamp your passport. They used to have to fill out an FMM on your exit and back on your entry. But now all you have to do is go with your resident card and your passport when you fly in or when you come in, and they'll just stamp your passport. If you didn't get an exit stamp, Kat, that's not a problem. Just tell them, hey, no one asked me or whatever, and I just need my entry stamp. They'll put you in the computer. They might give you a little bit of grief, but you should be fine. You don't have to fill out an FMM anymore. You used to have to, but not anymore. Hey, Henry, how's it going? It's great to see you again. Gringos Are Us. We'd love to get a meet and greet arranged in San Miguel de Allende in January for your viewers and ours. Thought it would be a blast. That would be great. Actually, we'll be here in January. Looking forward to it. Let's do something. Let's get in touch and we'll figure something out. Actually, Gringos Are Us. That would be an awesome thing. And I know a lot of people have asked. A lot of the local people that live here in San Miguel, that are viewers on my channel, said, "Hey, we need to have a local get together." But that'd be really cool to have. Get together there. And actually, Gringos Are Us, we could try to do the logistics and trying to find a place and everything else. Hey, Lisa, how's it going? And Gringos Are Us, you're right. Hand them your temporary residency card first. Make them ask for the passport so they don't mistakenly stamp you as a tourist. Yes, exactly. And also on your passport stamp, when they stamp your passport, make sure they put RT, resident. Actually, it's for temporary residents, but in Spanish it's residente temporal, and that means temporary resident. So, Kat, just as long as they put RT and they don't put an amount of days, if they put some like 180 or something like that, make sure you tell them, "Are you sure residente? I'm residente." 180 kind of look clueless. And make sure that they correct that so you don't get checked in as a resident. Hello, Anna. How's it going? Hey, Rick from Ormond Beach. Great to see you here, Rick. So basically, long story short, we were getting a lot of humidity. What was happening is, with the rains here in San Miguel, okay, let me see here real quick. Gringos Are Us. We have people that want to come from the U.S., so we need to set a date so they can arrange travel. Yeah, actually, Gringos Are Us, get a hold of me offline and we'll figure out a date. That would be really great. If you got people from the U.S. that want to come in, that would be really great. San Miguel's a great place to come as a first first visit. You know, you guys came here, so you know how beautiful it is here. We just had some relatives come down for a wedding, and they were impressed. Everybody that comes here is very impressed. So yeah, get with me offline, and we'll set a date. Actually, that sounds like a plan. And like I said, if any of you all are gonna be here, once we set a date, I'll do it on my Facebook group. I'll also, if you're not a member of my Facebook group, try to join that, or I'll even announce the date on my community tab. Hey, Gringisimo from Chicago, welcome. So the cantera tile, what was happening, we had in our patio, it's a long story. We put some decking, and then we also covered the cantera floor with vinyl. The reason why we did that is because every time we spilled something on there, it would go into the cantera tile, and you know, if you got oil in there, your tile was all stained. And you know, you can seal it, but unfortunately, our contractor didn't seal it, and the person that built the house didn't seal it, and we decided we just didn't want the hassle. So we put vinyl over it. Well, what we didn't realize is all this moisture was coming in through and we put some decking on the back, but the water was leaking through. So I can show you here. I was working on videos, and I have scripts done and everything else, but let me go over here. I'm going to show you. This is my garage. We had to tear out the floor. We're actually replacing. I posted this on my community tab, but I wanted to show you. This is actually my kitchen and living room. We're doing the downstairs. We're replacing all the tile, and we're replacing all the cantera flooring. And actually, if you look right here, over here, this is the vinyl. The planks that look like planks is the vinyl, and then right here where those are the cantera tiles. It's a stone. And then we also found out that they didn't put the foundation on correctly. We actually purchased this house pre-built. So we actually purchased it pre-built. So we didn't really have the choice in tile or flooring or anything else like that. So it's a project. So needless to say, we have a house full of dust, and what do you call it? Not rotor-rooters or what? No, rotor-rooters is for plumbing, but the chisels, the electric chisels that they're taking the flooring off, and then they had to take a layer of cement because they didn't lay when they laid the foundation, and then they laid another layer of cement that also happened to be porous that didn't cure right. So we're hopefully going to get rid of all those problems. We have that project done, and then project going. So I haven't been able, hey Jim, how's it going? I haven't been able to do my videos. I had a real interesting one that I got some fun facts about Mexico. I've done one before about how the color TV was invented in Mexico, stuff like that. But I found out some really new facts actually that you probably didn't know. People probably don't know. I didn't know. So I was doing that, working on that. I'm still working on the stuff you can bring in and how to take stuff out. If you're a digital nomad, I apologize if I haven't been getting video. Like I said, the last time my life's been upside down for the last 4 months, from a flood in my house in Monterrey all the way down to this flooring issue. So we want to correct it now. We were getting a lot of the walls were swelling and everything else because of the moisture, and we decided to get it done. The upstairs is okay. We're going to keep the vinyl. It's kind of a vinyl that looks like wood flooring. Also, if you know anything about block houses, they get very cold in the wintertime. So when you have tile, it's very cold. So we're going to just keep the tile downstairs, and the vinyl keeps your feet warm in a sense. It's kind of an insulator. So, and Cindy, how is my son after the surgery? He's doing great. He got home, and he's doing great. He's doing follow-up treatments there in San Antonio. But he came out amazing that we didn't expect him to be in such good shape. He only stayed in Mexico for 2 weeks. To have the surgery, and everything's great. He's doing perfect. Thank you for asking. So that's where I'm at with it. I really apologize if I haven't gotten any good to hear. Thank you, Cindy. I appreciate that. I appreciate that you guys, your understanding. And I am going to keep this live stream going on Sundays unless I have some appointment, but I'll reschedule it around on the weekends. We usually have people here. We're going to have people here working from, well, on Monday through Friday, all the way up until 5 o'clock in the afternoon, in the morning up until, and so we're going to have all of the noise and racket and the chisels and all of that stuff. Our goal is to have it done in 2 weeks. We've been really worn down. I'm really worn down with all of the running back and forth and everything else. So I'll try to get some videos out. I promise. Like I said, I'll keep this going. Sunday, nobody works. They're not allowed to in my fraccionamiento. They're not allowed to come here and work, and they can only work till 2 o'clock on Saturdays. So, and yesterday I wasn't able to do a video because I was celebrating my birthday. And if you go to my Facebook site, you'll see my Facebook page. You'll see my birthday cake. It was pretty unique. It was a box from Amazon, but it was actually a cake. It looks real. It looked real, all the way down to the barcodes and everything. So it was really great. My birthday's on the 27th, but we celebrated it this Saturday because our friends that were celebrating with us were not going to be in town the weekend of my birthday. So, Mark, hey Ernie, hey Gina, and everyone. Yes, Kat. As Ernie and Gringo said, always hand them your temporary residency card first before your passport. I miss being in Mexico so much. Yeah, I hand them both, but it's a good idea to do that. Give them your temporary residency card, and then they'll ask you for your passport. When I came in from Guatemala, I didn't have an issue. Well, I also knew the process, so I was looking at what he was doing. But if you don't know, just hand them your residency card. And if they write a number on it, make sure you Diaz? No, residente. That's all you have to say if you don't know Spanish. If you know Spanish, then explain to them that, are you sure did you check me in as a resident? And they will usually put RT or RP on your stamp. And sometimes it's not legible, but make sure you don't get checked in as a tourist. Oh, Gringos are us saying, we're talking about the meet and greet. The cake was amazing. Thank you. 29 again. Yeah, I've been 29, Tom, for the last, I don't know how many years. You know, funny story. I'm going to share a personal story with you. When I was a kid, every year I'd ask my mom. Of course, I didn't know any better. I was a kid. You don't ask somebody how old they are, especially my mom. I'm not supposed to, but I didn't know any better. So I would ask my mom how old she was every year, and she would say, "I'm 20 years old." And being a kid, I didn't understand. I just my mom's 20 years old. My mom's 20 years old. But my mom would say it every year. Never dawned on me until I got a little bit older. And I'm actually turning 59, 29 plus 30 years. But later on, my oldest son, used to ask my mom the same thing. And I remember one day we were talking, we were having a discussion, and we were saying, yeah, I think it was even with my dad. My mom was 60 something or 70 something. And my son goes, no, she's 20. She's 20 years old because she told me. So yeah, it's an interesting story, but it went down to we had to, he was about 3 years old or 2 years old. So we had to say, yeah, oh yes, your grandmother's 20 years old. So very interesting. But I used to do the same thing when I was a kid. You turned 60, Lisa. Happy birthday. I'm right behind you at 59. But today I don't have a subject other than let's have a discussion. Or nerd uno. So about the new entry process you mentioned, what about land and have passport and you have a passport card? I know most do not check, but there is a check at the Tijuana crossing if you walk across. Actually, nerd, I'll tell you what. Excuse me. I think the microphone picks that up when I swallow, and I should have muted it, but. And you got to excuse me. Sometimes and it's actually a little bit drier. It's starting to get colder here, and then it's starting to get drier. The winter's starting to come a little bit. It's fall here, but the winter's coming a little bit early. But nerd, actually, it's the same process. But here's the problem that you run into the border, the land borders. When you go, you're supposedly supposed to check out. Literally, you're supposed to get your passport stamped every time you leave the country. Now, I know that several people have gotten they've presented their passport, and the immigration looks at them like, we don't do that here. We don't know what you're talking about. Or usually when you present your resident card, they don't even ask for your passport. It's like, keep going. So you get mixed reactions on the border. The best thing to do as far as walking across is just have your residence card and your passport with you. And if they say you didn't check out. Now, one thing that I do stress with people, because I had like the American Dream people that were a good friend of the channels, I had them checking out because they were leaving and they asked me, what do I do? And they actually went to check out and they said, immigration, we don't do that. We don't do that. They were going to drive out, sell their car and fly back in. And you have an issue sometimes when you fly back in if you never checked out, because the airports is a little bit stricter. So what I tell people, if you're going to leave leave Mexico and then come back, go to the land border, insist that they check you out with at least stamp your passport with an RT, even if they don't put it in the computer, so that you don't have issues when you're coming back. Because sometimes when you're coming back, now when I came back from Guatemala, they didn't check. They didn't check to see if I checked out, but they do at some airports. Goes, where's your checkout stamp? And then you have to explain that, well, I left during the border. It's you just it loses you time. I mean, it's not that they're not going to let you in, but and actually checking out and checking in is for statistical purposes. And it also is used for when you try to apply for citizenship. Now, I do know some people on the border, when they leave, they don't check out and they don't check in because you don't go through an immigration. But in your case, what you're talking about, nerd, you have to go through immigration if you're walking across. So my best advice is just you show them your temporary resident card. If they didn't check you out going out, just explain, well, they never checked me out. I went and they didn't check me out, and they'll just stamp your passport. And a lot of land borders, usually when you even go in there with your resident card, they're looking at you like, why are you here? I'm not kidding you. They'll look at you like, why are you here? You don't need to fill out anything. I don't need to stamp your passport. We don't do that here. There's such a disparity, but it's always better safe than sorry. Now, the thing about the land borders is if you leave and you come back in and nobody ever knew, then really nothing's going to happen. I'll tell you the truth. Nothing's going to happen. No one's there to check to see if you checked in and checked out, and I have proof that you left. I mean, that it's for statistical purposes. And if you're interested in getting your citizenship, you need to make sure you have all those exits and entries squared away. Because when they check your stamps and they check your entries and exits, you can't have been out of the country for the past, I always get this wrong, 3 years or 5 years, more than 180 days compiled. So if you're trying to get your Mexican citizenship, that's very important that all of your entries and exits are documented. So Anna, let me see. I didn't see your question before, but let's see now that you're here. I just saw your hello. Don't know if my question went through. Can I bring tin tuna accessory in a can? Do I have to declare it? Actually, I don't know about tuna. Anna, there's several things that they do get picky on, but usually, it's usually agricultural items. Excuse me. It's usually agricultural items that they look at. Like canned tuna is not here. It's in a can. I don't think you're going to have any issues with it. Just declare it. Just say, yeah, I have some canned tuna, personal stuff, and you shouldn't have an issue with it. I mean, we bring stuff up. We bring food across the land border all the time. Now, going back to the United States, you have to be very careful because there are certain things that you can't take back, like pork, anything with a seed. So if you're going back to the United States, you got to be a little bit more careful with food. So you should be got on it with your canned tuna. The only thing that you need to be careful about, here's the thing, and I do know this has happened. This happens a lot with immigrants or expats, whatever you want to call them. What does happen a lot of times is if we do this all the time. We have our favorite coffee, but the coffee can only be shipped to the U.S. And so we go to Macau, we send like 20 bags or 100 bags or 50 bags or 30 bags to my brother-in-law's house. And then we go pick it up. Okay. And then we come back with like 30 bags of coffee or 40 bags of coffee. And they look at us like, whoa, you're taking it back to Mexico to sell. Okay, so you need to be very, very straightforward that this is for personal use. And then they look at us like 30 bags of coffee. How are you going to? Yeah, it's for 6 months. Okay, or 20 bags. We usually order it like in 15 to 20 bags of coffee. So that's one of the things that you have to be careful of, Anna, is if you start taking large quantities, then you start getting the customs start getting very picky about, so. And then also, Gringos R Us has a good point. There is a Costco in Cancun that sells albacore. We are picky with our tuna as well. Just an alternative thought. And also, Anna, it depends where you're going. Actually, it depends where you're going, Anna, because, for example, I live in San Miguel. I have a city market here. City market carries a lot of that stuff. A lot of the American products, Canadian products, even all from all sorts of countries. If you go to Querétaro, you have an H-E-B. You have a lot of American products that are brought over. Maybe your brand of tuna is going to be brought over. You can find that here in Mexico without having to bring it across or even have to worry about it. The most that'll happen is if they ever say you can't bring tuna in, they'll just take it away from you. But depending where you're at, if you're in the north, like in Monterrey, there's a lot of American products make it down to Monterrey. There's Walmarts. There's actually Walmarts too in different places. We're going to get a Walmart here in San Miguel, probably in a couple of years or whatever, however long it takes. Sometimes it takes forever, but we are going to get a Walmart here. Some of those products will be carried. Some of the products that they carry in a normal Walmart, they're carry here. So, and your Costco membership, well, we went ahead and got when our membership expired, we got a Mexico Costco membership, but our Costco membership in the U.S. when we first got here was worked, and so does your Sam's Club. And actually, there's even a Sam's Club in Monterrey. There's a Sam's Club here in Querétaro. So depending on where you live, I do know we were in Mérida. There's a big Walmart in Mérida. As a matter of fact, the tour guide pointed it out. We have a Walmart. So, Anna, you depending on where you go, you'll be able to find a lot of your products. Believe it or not, even Amazon too. But the only thing with Amazon is that even if it's imported, some stuff that can't be imported, but you have to pay the duty. And also sometimes it's like 10 times more expensive. I was looking for some candy that I always eat that I couldn't get back home. I wasn't able to find it, and I found it. Hey, Matt, thanks for subscribing. I found that candy, and they wanted like 3 times or 4 times the price because they brought it over, and they're probably selling it through Amazon merchants or whatever. Yeah, Tom, having traveled all over the world, not necessarily to bring anything anywhere. Only once in Sicily, my bank card didn't work in the ATM. What they actually had a bank machines where I could insert the dollar. Yeah, Tom. Actually, Mexico is very well. I would say probably in the past 10 years, Mexico has started to get a lot of U.S. food chains. I mean, there's Chili's and stuff in certain towns. We were in Merida, and I was looking at all the U.S. food chains that were Texas Roadhouse, I think it was, that I saw there. Different restaurants that are U.S. chains. So, I mean, as much as you're going to be, I always tell people to integrate with the culture, but at the same time, you're not going to be, don't be too afraid that you're going to be too far away from all of the comforts of home, because there's always a way to get that accomplished. Believe it or not, there is a way of getting that accomplished. So, I wouldn't worry about, and also we found some products that are even better than the products we're used to. Yeah, Gina's saying that she can't get some of her art products. Um, Actually, here are difficult unless you find a Mexican vendor. Yeah, Gina, the reason why probably your art supplies is because they contain a lot of chemicals. So even on Amazon, you might want to check on Amazon Mexico, because sometimes they are able to import it, but it's like 5 times the price. But even if you go to Amazon USA, because the Amazon USA sometimes ships to Mexico, but sometimes because of import restrictions, they won't. You'll go to Amazon and say, sorry, we can't ship to this location. But the other way around it, once you get settled, Gina, there are services like, for example, here in San Miguel, like La Conexión, some of the where you send it to a U.S. address, and they actually physically bring it down. Now, they do charge a percentage of the price, and then plus any kind of imports fees. But so that's a way of getting stuff. We've always found, or you know what we always do? We always find somebody that's going back to the States. We actually found somebody that here in San Miguel that goes makes trips back to the States and gets a list and charges 3% or 4% of whatever the cost will be of the products. Now, you can't ask her to bring you a laptop or whatever, but things like vitamins and stuff like that. So, okay, Lisa. Question: will I be able to bring a few bottles of wines into Mexico when we move in January to PV? I don't want to do any shopping the day we arrive. We just want to relax with a glass of wine. Actually, Lisa, we've never had any issues, but we've done it on the border. We've actually brought wine in on the border. Now, I do know that my brother-in-law once got kind of scolded for bringing in alcohol. The thing you have to remember with alcohol, and there's certain items that, are restricted, yes, but there's also some certain items that, like, they tax and everything else. The thing is, I'd be very careful with alcohol. If you're going to be driving in, I don't think you're going to have an issue at the land borders, because people are doing it all the time. If you're flying in, first of all, you're going to have issues with the airline, because you're not supposed to bring any flammable material and I don't know what all. And then you might have some issues there. And then also, it's up to the discretion of the customs officer. But I know that there's a certain amount of cigarettes and stuff that you can bring in. I don't know what to tell you. I hear you. Yeah, and also there's a duty-free shop at the airport, but I'm not sure on the duty-free Gringos or Us. I think that's outgoing back to the U.S. I don't know if they'll let you, but I mean, maybe they'll let you just when you get off, go to the duty-free and get some wine there. That's a good suggestion, but I'm not sure at the PV airport how it's how it's situated, because sometimes the duty-free shop's right there at the entrance. At least Coca-Cola is better than Coke here in the States. Actually, Coca-Cola has a very big reputation here, dying to retire. That's one of the things that I'm going to put out in my next video. But Mexican Coke is very famous. I don't know if it's because the formula is different or they put more sugar or more caffeine, but many people swear by the fact. My son, when he came here to get surgery, this is before the surgery, of course, the first thing he did is, I need to buy a Mexican Coke. I need to buy a Mexican Coke. We went out to eat before his surgery, and he wanted a Mexican Coke. And he stacked the refrigerators with Mexican Coca-Colas when he was recuperating at the Airbnb we rented. Hey, will those guys bring my vinyl records? Gina, I don't. Actually, they would have to be shipped to them, and then they would have to bring the vinyls over. But like I said, like La Conexión is the one that people use here, and actually they have a mail forwarding service too. So you have it sent to an address in Laredo, and actually the same thing with Amazon. You have it sent to an address in Laredo, and then the mail comes to you, and they even have they have like a little thing where you can check your mailbox. We just don't use it because we get our mail in the U.S. and have it sent to us or whatever, or we take care of it when we go back. But so let me see here. Tom, yes, Mexico does have some wonderful wineries and great Mexican wine. If you buy wine at the U.S. airport, they will deliver it to your flight. You are allowed 200 cigarettes. Don't smoke here. Yeah, actually, the smoking laws got very strict here. And Tom, that's another thing. The wineries here are wonderful, Lisa. You'll find some. As a matter of fact, I live right next door to two wineries. I think I even did a video saying salud from one of the wineries. It's one of our favorite places to go eat. Actually, if you looked at my Facebook page, I took some pictures of me at an equestrian event. That's at the winery next door to where I live. They have polo fields, and they also have horse shows there. So they make their own wine. There's people that live there. They have their houses there, and their associates. They make their houses there. So they make houses there that you can live there on the winery. And it's also it's a neighbor. It's, what do you call it? Private winery, and I guess people own estates there. But the wine is excellent, to be honest with you. And there's a lot of Mexican wineries here, and a lot of good wine. Jim Solomon, they use real sugar in Mexican Coke instead of high fructose corn syrup. Yep. That I don't doubt it, and that's one of the things that I've heard about it. That's one of the things that I've heard about Mexican Coke, is because they actually use real sugar. But you have to get the Mexican Coke that's in the bottles. That's the other thing too. They do have the plastic and the canned Coke, but those canned products are the products that Coca-Cola has one of their biggest plants here in Mexico. So a lot of those products that you'll find in the OXXO, if they're not in the bottle, because it's very typical that the Mexican Cokes come in a bottle, but the canned products and the plastics and all that stuff, most of those most of those Cokes are going to other countries. Those are the Cokes the extras that get shipped to the OXXOs locally, but those are the ones that are exported to the U.S. and stuff. So, and 25 cigars per person. Yes. And actually, Gringos R Us, for those of you that vape, they've even come down with some regulations on vaping. I haven't really done that much stuff in there. Mexican Coke used to be only no high fructose, but not anymore. I checked the labels on the plastic and glass bottles, and now it's a blended sugar. Yeah, actually, Gina, if you checked in on the plastic or the cans, it's probably going to be high fructose syrup because, like I said, A lot of those products you're going to find is exactly like the product you find in the United States. The ones that you find that are hecho in Mexico probably have some sugar, not only sugar, but maybe they do have some high fructose syrup. But you're going to find that the ones that most of the one, and maybe you might find the Mexican formula and some of the canned stuff, but you're going to find most of that because they mass produce it. So if they're going to send it to 7-Eleven in the United States, they'll send it to the OXXO down here. So they're alternating their formula on Coke and including the corn syrup now here in Mexico. Probably, like I said, alternating in the sense, Gringos Are Us, like I was saying, a lot of the time, the Cokes you find in the OXXO are extras that were supposed to be exported, or they produced more, and then they just send it to the local market here. So that's why you're seeing a mix. The ones that are the good ones, supposedly, are the ones in a bottle, number one, a glass bottle, and also usually the ones they sell at the restaurants are the ones that usually are the ones that are a little bit more pure in sugar or whatever you might want to call it. I personally drink Diet Coke because I can't handle the sugar, to be honest with you. Not anymore. I'm not that young anymore because I just turned 59, or I'm turning 59 now, and at the end, at the end of this month. But yeah, that's why you're seeing this mix. Like, you'll check the label, and one time it's all high fructose syrup. Maybe there was some made locally for the OXXOs here, and so it's maybe the Mexican formula. So in plastic bottles, and actually in cans, it's not the same as the famous Mexican Coke. Jesse, my work said no to working remotely from Mexico, but they can't stop me from working for a month at a time. Any advice on how to live in Mexico for 30 days at a time without Airbnb pricing? Actually, Jesse, I don't know. That one's a hard one. Just give me a second here. Let me get a drink of water. That's a tough one because you're going to have expenses in flying back and forth for 30 days at a time, and you're going to have issues with of course having to rent a place. The other thing would be to rent long term, and just well, if you get a lower price and then figure the month that you're not going to be in there, that you're not going to be there. The other thing is that and this is not advice because I know a lot of remote workers. Here's the problem, Jesse, and I'll be perfectly honest with you with the regulations. The problem with corporations in the United States is they're supposed to report all the people that are working overseas or working outside of the United States. It's for tax purposes. It has to do with their taxes and everything else. And most companies don't allow remote work overseas, but people do it anyway because it's like, I'm going to work from wherever I want to work if you let me work remotely. HR and most major corporations, they are required to say, if you're working in Mexico, we have to put you on a different list. And of course, they only have maybe, like I said, allocated so many people and all that stuff for this list. Some places will say not a problem because they're already saying they have people overseas or they're contracting people overseas. And this happens if you go to remote work anywhere in the world. What I've seen a lot of people do here in Mexico, they either disregard their company rules and they come here and do it. But like I always say, there's some consequences to this. Some people say, oh, use a VPN because I can pretend I'm in the United States. Okay. Some companies don't care at all. And I know several people that work for some companies that are not supposed to be here in Mexico working, and they are. And they even log on to their VPN, their company VPN. I mean, I don't know how IT doesn't know that they're coming from Mexico, but I guess nobody checks. But you have to be very careful because it's a sensitive situation, because here's the consequences. Like I always say, got to know the consequences before you take the risk. The consequences is for example, let's say you have to log into a company VPN. Okay. When you log into the company VPN, you're connecting to the company's servers. Okay. So they see where you're coming from. They just create a secure connection. And I have a background in IT because I have my degree in computer science, and I did computer forensics and intrusion detections and cyber crimes in my last job. But they can see where you're coming from. So yeah, you can log in, but they're going to say, hey, what's this person doing in Mexico City? They can track you. And other people say, well, use a mobile, NordVPN, or use a VPN solution. Here's the problem with, and actually Gina could probably speak to this because she does remote work too, and knows a lot about IT. But even if you use like NordVPN, you got to understand, depending on how sophisticated the company is, they have a list of all the IP addresses. For example, Netflix. If you go and try to log into Netflix pretending you're and in the old days it used to work, but now they have like what they call blacklists, and those blacklists are known IPs from VPNs. And what is happening now is they mine all this data of known IPs from VPNs. And now it's hard to fool the company because they'll know that, oh, this person's coming from a VPN. Why are you connecting to a first VPN when you need to connect to our company VPN? So those are the things. It's kind of tough. I don't know if Airbnb, the other thing you can do with Airbnb maybe is, if you can only come here for 30 days at a time, is try to negotiate a better price. Say, I'm going to be there for 30 days. Can you give me a better price? Now, you can actually message them directly. I do know a lot of people do that. Well, we're going to stay in your Airbnb for 2 months. Can you give us the regular rental price? And you can actually get that instead of the daily price, especially when you're long-term, because they know you're going to be in there every single day. The thing with Airbnbs, what if I can charge $200 a day, but I'm going to make more money if I have it rented all the time than if I only have it rented 2 weekends out of the month, or 3 weekends or 4 weekends out of the month. So I believe there's a Mexico Mule on Facebook where people arrange for things to be brought from the States. Yeah, actually, Cindy, there are people that do that. I know there's somebody that does that here in San Miguel. I've known people that actually do that for a business. So it's not uncommon. I just know the one person here in San Miguel that does this, but Stephanie, one of our favorite places too, also really good olive oil. Yeah, actually they have olive trees there too. Thank you for pointing that. And also they have lavender plants there. They make a lot of products out of lavender, Stephanie. I know that if you remember, there's a bunch of lavender around, but if you look around the whole place, they make a lot of products with lavender. And the olive oil, we've actually given it for a gift. Not that we buy much, just 3 liters a day, and Gina doesn't drink it. Yeah, I don't drink it, so I haven't really checked the labels, but Dying to Retire podcast. Hopefully not a crazy question, and is for the esposa. Though we will end up in Guate, is the tequila cheaper in Mexico and Guate? She does like margaritas I make for her. I'll tell you what, the tequila, you know what, the prices in alcohol have really gone up. The local tequila here, like if you're into brands like Jose Cuervo, the commercial brands, you're gonna pay the same you're gonna pay in the United States. There's a lot of artisanal tequila that comes out of Tequila, Mexico, out of Jalisco, and a lot of that stuff you can get for very good prices. But at the same time, if you want really good quality, now here's the other thing too. If you want like super quality tequila, you're going to pay the price for it, but probably it's going to be cheaper than what it would have cost it would probably be cheaper than what it would cost in the United States for that same level of quality. But Yeah, and I don't know about Wate. We went to Wate uh, this year, earlier in the year. We didn't drink any tequila, so I couldn't tell you what the prices are there. But I do know, of course, the national. There's out of Jalisco, they make so many tequilas. Trust me, you're never going to get tired of the amount, and mezcal too. You're never going to get tired of the amount of tequila and mezcal that, especially artisanal stuff. And the artisanal stuff is good, to be honest with you. So always look for the glass bottles. Yeah. But at the same time, Gringos R Us, you might be right that they're changing formulas around and stuff like that. But the one that it's the glass ones that are the famous ones. And the reason why, and let me tell you why. Actually, there's an actual reason why. Uh, the glass bottles are returnable. Remember back in the United States, you have to return the bottles. Like even here, the garrafons, the big garrafons, you have to pay a deposit on the bottles. Okay, and Corona beer, the same thing. The Corona beer here, you pay the deposit on the bottles, right? So you return the bottles and you get the case of beer for cheaper if you return the. It's the same thing with the Coke. You pay a deposit on the bottle. So what's going to happen? They're not going to be exporting that bottled Coke to the United States. That is for local consumption. And then of course the bottles are recycled and they're returned and everything else. So that's why you have better luck in finding the original Mexican Coke in the glass bottles. Fun fact. And actually, you'll notice that the bottles for Corona beer here are different than the bottles in the United States because the bottles here are actually returnable. So you pay a deposit and then you can get your beer you bring back the bottles, you get your beer for cheaper. And it's the same thing with water here. Yeah, a lot of people here in Mexico have mules. A friend of mine told me she couldn't get a Swift or Sweeper refills, so that is what I brought. LOL. Yeah, and actually too, I'll tell you what. If you make a lot of good friends, you'll find if you put yourself in the expat community or immigrant community. I'm sorry because I always get corrected, but whatever you want to call yourself, and I've already said my position on this, but if you get very well established, because we have friends that are Mexican all the way to American to Canadian to from New Zealand. Actually, friends that went to celebrate with me yesterday were from New Zealand, but a lot of them go back to the States. So you'll find that they'll say, hey, can you bring me a bottle of Advil? Can you bring me this? Can you bring me that? Can you bring? So it's not unusual for friends to do you favors and bring stuff. Or, hey, I had an iPhone sent to so-and-so's house. Can you bring me the iPhone can you bring the iPhone with me? You just have to be careful with customs. But a lot of these people that come back and forth, that do this, they have connections, I guess, with customs and to get it across. So, but they do it for business. I don't drink except for Swedish sparkling hard cider, and I drink tea. I can't get the Irish English out of me. Well, you know what? I don't know if they have any of the Swedish sparkling hard cider here, but they do have a lot of teas. Actually, believe it or not, there's some good teas here. If you find it in some boutiques. Well, I digress. Okay, when I say good teas, because I'm in San Miguel, and San Miguel's a very international community, so a lot of people bring that stuff from all over the world. So you can find like cuisine from all over the world. You find teas, coffees, stuff like that here in San Miguel that you might not find in Puerto Vallarta or Cancun or that type of stuff. So. Has to be in glass. Plastic in cans or high fructose syrup. Yes, exactly. Has to be in glass. But I mean, like I said, I gave you the reason why in glass, because most of the Coca-Cola bottles that are produced here in Mexico in glass are for local consumption. So those are the true Mexican Cokes. The ones in aluminum cans and plastic, those are the ones that usually get exported. Like I said, Coca-Cola has one of their big, in Monterrey, Mexico, Coca-Cola, Corona beer, Carta Blanca, all of those brands that you may know in the United States have their biggest, I mean, we're talking about biggest plants here in Mexico, in Monterrey. So Coke exports a lot of their stuff. So over there from Mexico, from a lot of the stuff that you get over there comes actually from Mexico or produced in Mexico. Actually, Gina, they might have changed it if it's a blend. Yeah, but I'm almost sure it's still a different flavor. Um, I'm almost sure that they've changed it over the years. You know, the legend of the Mexican Coke, I'll be honest with you too. The legend of the Mexican Coke, the original legend of the Mexican Coke being better than any Coke in the world, that started a long time ago. There was probably a time that it was 100% sugar. I'm almost sure Coca-Cola has changed their formulas. High fructose syrup is probably cheaper than sugar. They're probably cutting costs. So maybe it is a blend. And I don't know. I haven't really checked on it. I always rely on the legend of the Mexican Coke being better. But I don't know the ingredients, to be honest with you. But I wouldn't be surprised if it is a mixture. But there is a different flavor to it. I haven't really tasted the different flavor. I did back in the day, but this is when I was younger. This is when I was in my 20s and 15s and 16s, when I was living on the borders. When I was a teenager, a kid, we would go to Mexico when it wasn't on the border. It was safe to go across to the restaurants, and we'd drink the Coke there. So it was very famous. But I don't drink. I just drink the Diet Coke. And actually, I don't even drink a lot of Coke, to be honest with you. I'm drinking mostly water now. So. Yeah, Jesse, Gina, like I said, Gina's the one to talk to about working abroad. And she's been doing it for a while now. But I don't know where her situation is with the company, but I know that she does it. But that's probably a better way. Like I said, I do know one person that works abroad, and I'm not going to say who it is, but they work for a major corporation and have never had any issues. They connect to their VPN from Mexican sources, and they've never been told anything. But technically, they hold an address here in the United States, or they're in the United, not here. They work from here, but hold an address in the United States, and for all intensive purposes, they live at that address, and never been questioned. But that can change, and they're very well aware of that. So, yeah, we had some friends. See, that's the thing. It's all about networking. It's all about networking. But actually, I've started to make some of our own hard to find items. Oh yeah, you've actually started making some of this stuff. But like I said, it will vary. Hard to find items. It's going to vary depending on where you live. Because like if you're in Monterrey, I can almost get almost anything that I can get in the States. There's very few things. And then you go to a place like City Market. I'm not kidding you. They got Kirtland brand there. So that's, I guess Kirtland is Costco, I believe. But they have, but it's expensive, because they're luxury comfort items, I guess you might say. Hola, we're driving to Merida soon from Vancouver. Can you recommend a safe border crossing, and where can you get the tip per print per vehicle? I noticed you don't recommend Laredo. Yeah, Neon 64. One second here. Let me get a drink. Neon 64. I wouldn't recommend Laredo. I never have, and I never have for certain reasons. The problem with Laredo is Laredo's very volatile as far as activities. Many people say, "Oh, if you're not involved in the cartel, don't worry about it." Blah 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 blah. Okay. The problem is that uh, things happen from one day to the next in Laredo. And instead of, there's a lot of knee jerk reactions that go on in Laredo. And you might say, oh, it's clear. And tomorrow something's going on and there's a gunfight in the middle of, and you're in the middle of all of it. Luckily, not a lot of people have gotten hurt or anything else. As much as people report on the Facebook groups as is totally safe, yes, there has been incidents with Americans going through Laredo, going through Columbia Bridge. There's stuff that I can't really talk about, but it happens, okay? I'm just going to tell you, it happens. But probably your safest bet is, I've always tell people to go to Eagle Pass. Eagle Pass is through the state of Chihuahua. Here's two things the reasons why I recommend Eagle Pass. I recommend Eagle Pass because number one, it's a very quiet crossing, very quiet. I mean, you get through there really quick. You get through your immigration, you get your tip. You go through your immigration process first, whether it be that you're checking in for a canje or you're going in for your 180 days, Neon, and then you go. They have the tip office there, and there is another tip, the Banjercito, 20 kilometers in, but you can get it there at the bridge, and it's very easy to get everything done at the border crossing. The tip office should be right there where the immigration office is. Laredo, the people that will swear up and down, and there's no way I'm being. Let me put it this way: Mexican nationals won't even go through Laredo. It's considered a bad place. And right now, I'm going to tell you right now, I hate to say this, as much as I promote Mexico, right now with the new administration, we don't know what's going to happen. Cartel violence has gotten worse. And here's the thing. Everybody says, "What? I'm not involved with the cartel." It's not about being involved with the cartel. It's about being in the wrong place at the wrong time. It's about being stuck in the middle of a shooting or being stuck in the middle of a confrontation between law enforcement and the cartel. It can happen anywhere. Usually the toll roads are a little bit safer and everything. I don't want to scare you, Neon 64, but you just have to be a little bit more vigilant. And not only that, but when you want to cross through places like Laredo, maybe I'll go through a place that's a little bit less risky. Or I'm not going to cross through Reynosa, Tamaulipas. That's the crossing that we've used. And right now, when things are getting worse, we're not planning on crossing there in the near future until things calm down. So, and that's considered more dangerous than Laredo, okay? But I'm more comfortable with it. And you also have to be more comfortable with it if you go back and forth. People that cross in Laredo, they swear by it. If you cross in Laredo, the one thing that I tell everybody is to make sure you don't cross at the Columbia Bridge, because there's been a lot of problems on that highway. Not only that, but there's a short stretch where the police, they see foreign plates, and it's instant, we want a bribe. And then if you don't give in, we'll hand you over to the crooks. Don't cross in Columbia. And if you're going to go through Laredo, make sure you use the police escort. There's a police escort that meets you at the bridge and will take you across the town. And it's a police escort. Like I said, though, I still wouldn't do it myself personally, because I know even if I have a police escort, anything can happen. I'm not kidding you. In one of my videos, I even talk about this. They arrested the leader of the cartel, the local cartel there in Nuevo Laredo, in the middle of the night at midnight, and he was a U.S. citizen, so they deported him. Basically what they did was they just said, "Hey, U.S., here you go. You wanted him? He's yours." And the next day, when the cartel found out, Nuevo Laredo was a war zone, literally. And, the sad part is there's people, I crossed through there, was burning cars. Nothing happened. Yeah, nothing happened. They were attacking the consulate. Literally, the consulate people they were throwing stuff at the consulate. They were shooting into the consulate. So this is an example of how things just blow up. I even joke around that Reynosa, even though it's got more of a fame for being more dangerous, at least the cartel usually they have a Facebook page and they tell people, stay inside the house because we're in a fight. I'm not condoning the cartel activities, but this is the difference between Laredo and a place like Reynosa, uh, where you have two hot areas. But the problem with Laredo is there's no forewarning. One thing, there was I guess OXXO was refusing to pay what we call piso, the piso, which is like a tax for protection. And they were refusing the OXXOs, and they ended up attacking the OXXOs. They had to close down the OXXOs in Laredo. So you just need to be, I say don't go. The best place to go through is Eagle Pass. The only thing with Eagle Pass, don't go on Sundays because usually the tip office is closed. I usually advise to travel on Sundays or don't go on a holiday, Mexican holiday. Make sure there's no Mexican holidays if it's a Monday. But I always advise also to travel at the beginning of the week because that statistically here in Mexico, it's actually been studies done. Less crime happens Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday and Thursday is when it starts ramping back up. So safe travels. And I've already advised a couple of people through Eagle Pass. So safe travels. And if you want to go through Laredo, just make sure you take the police escort. The Eagle Pass route, you might get a little bit like, oh my God, it's a beautiful, beautiful country coming down through Eagle Pass, but you might feel a little bit, but trust me, it's a lot better than going through Laredo. I do have a couple of people that have big boats or big trailers. If you're going through Eagle Pass, maybe that's not the road that you want to go through, but Eagle Pass is probably your best bet. Jesse, I work for a university. We have people working outside of the U.S. all the time, but who gets approved is political. I can retire in 14 months, so they don't get it. If I can find a way, I'll quit. Actually, Jesse, that's probably your best bet is to figure out. Here's another thing that I've seen people do, and actually Mexic Plans does this. If you have somebody with a local internet connection, like from your town, there's ways of setting up a VPN in their router so it looks like you're coming from. But I've been out of the IT field for so long, but you can technically basically VPN into the local machine, and it makes it look like you're coming from the person's house. Anna, a lot of companies know you're using a VPN. Yeah, actually, Anna, there's two ways that they know you're using a VPN. First of all the traffic comes in encrypted, and not only, well, it doesn't come in encrypted, but like I said, they have a blacklist of the VPNs. And you'll notice this, you'll see this and then you'll see maybe you'll be using NordVPN, and you say, oh, I got onto Netflix US really easy. And then like a week passes, and all of a sudden, sorry, you're not in your region. And they're constantly, and actually they're getting better and better and better at detecting they call there's a thing in IT called a whitelist and a blacklist. And there's usually IP. The whitelist is allow this IP in anytime, no matter where they're coming from. And a blacklist is, hey, don't allow this IP to connect. And usually a lot of these VPN services, their IPs are already known because they actually have to lease a series of IP addresses. So usually when they know that company's leasing those IP addresses, or they have servers that you go through, but then all of a sudden when they discover that, and usually the servers, the IP addresses are sequential. They're all the same. So it's going to be, I'm using a local number, but 192.168.50.1.2.3.4.5. So usually by the first three number, by the 192.168.50, they already know that comes from the same group of IP addresses. So it probably belongs to, for example, Surfshark. And you see, Surfshark, the company even knew I had a VPN in the USA. They told me. Gringos are, I like playing whack-a-mole. VPNs try and hide, and companies try and find them. Yeah, Gina, and actually, depending on their IT contract, like I said, those blacklists, they get passed around all the time, especially I have a friend that works in cybersecurity, and they get those updates all the time. So they know where stuff is coming from. And then you got to remember, and from a cybersecurity perspective, that they're going to blacklist a lot of those IP addresses, because why? A lot of hackers try to use a VPN or try to disguise their identity when they're trying to break into systems. So what's the best way to secure your system? Don't let a VPN come in unless it's your own company's VPN or your own company. And some, literally, you have to get a fixed. I mean, I know of my agency, of certain people had to get an actual fixed IP address at their house for security reasons. And then they had to VPN in, and they could only VPN or connect to our company VPN, our agency, not company, agency VPN from a certain IP address. So some companies have it locked down that much, but not with this remote work. But you might have to play whack-a-mole with the VPNs. But for some reason, anyone can work from outside the U.S. for 30 days without getting permission. Kind of nuts. Yeah, Jesse, and actually that has it's not just the corporations. The universities, they pay, yes, they're an educational institution and they don't pay taxes, but they have to pay certain payroll taxes and stuff, because if you live outside the United States, your tax situation is going to be different. So like, let's say they report you in Mexico, they're technically supposed to report taxes into Mexico or pay your taxes in Mexico. It's a mess, to be honest with you. And the 30-day thing probably is a policy that the university has, but it's a policy that you're technically, if you're away for 30 days, you're not living in the other country, quote, quote. So you're not taxable. It all has to do with your tax situation. Now, I know universities are tax exempt, but when it comes to employees, you still pay income tax and everything else. So they're still responsible for personnel hiring and hiring practices. So it's not only corporations. The reason why I said big corporations are more strict on this is because they're more regulated. They're the ones that are asking for certain tax breaks and everything else. But universities, here's the issue with universities. My dad was a dean, actually, and actually he retired the vice president of a university. You got to remember, the university usually receives some type of federal funds, state funds, if they're a state-sponsored university, and even private universities sometimes. Now, private universities are less regulated, but if you go and you violate a federal law, then how many federal grants did you have coming into your university that may be at risk? And them say, hey, well, you're violating the law here. We're not going to give you federal money. So that's probably what it has to do with. But that's more political than anything else, Jesse. Good luck with the Airbnb changing much of their prices, Jesse. We got some discounts for long term, but it'll still be expensive. Yeah, I don't see them lowering it to what a normal rental price would be, but they do give discounts for long term. Hey, Lambden, how's it going? Feliz Domingo. Thank you. Happy Sunday. Yeah, Nerd Uno, that's what I see people do. Actually, I had a coworker when I was in Brazil. I was actually in Brazil, and I had a coworker that set up, because he wanted to get Netflix and everything else, and he was from El Paso, and he had fiber optic internet at the house. At the time, it was a big deal, fiber optic, in 2006 and 2007. And when I was in Brazil, he would connect to his friends. Actually, he would connect to through a VPN, or set up a VPN so he could connect to Netflix. So it looked like he was coming from his friend's house in El Paso. Set up exactly what you did. And it looks like and that's exactly what my friend did. And that's actually one of the things, I think Mexit Plans has a whole thing on how you can do that. And actually, he even suggests a little router that you buy, that you connect to the router to connect. But I think you need to have it, connected through a VPN through a friend's house. Hi, Ernie. Hello again. This time from Santiago. I plan on going trekking in Patagonia. It's great to see you, Robert. Again, I should be in San Cristobal de las Casas probably by November of next year. Awesome. You know what? I envy everybody that can trek around the world. We love to travel. And actually, my friend Jim Clifford, he's heading off for a Europe thing, and we've always toyed with the idea of trying to live, but we're kind of tied down by our two fur babies. If you know, they actually made it into a commercial for a puppy, this thing called Puppy Box that we have here service. But we're a little bit more tied down. But that is so awesome in Santiago. Actually, one of the professors that lived down the street from us was from Santiago, Chile. I only went into Santiago once, Robert. I was on a connecting flight. I connected in Santiago, and actually the plane with the mountains there. Oh my gosh, it was like I was looking out the window and then looking at the side of the mountain because of the descent into the airport. I only stayed there. I was only there. I was going to South America, and I had to do a plane swap there, and I never have. But that's definitely in our list. And Patagonia and Argentina. I did go to Buenos Aires. I did travel to Buenos Aires. I did a little bit of work in Argentina. Argentina is a very interesting place. So have fun. Thanks for dropping in, actually. Really great to see you again. And then you'll be in San Cristobal. That's great. By November of next year. So you're trekking around everywhere, Robert. Listening to your story, it sounds like Airbnb prices are just painful. Yes, it probably is. Okay, sure. Yeah, Nerdun, I wish that. Actually, Gina, I don't know if you've ever spoken with Mexiplan out of Merida. Well, but you're right. You're going to have someone on the other side. Yeah, the best thing is probably to set up the VPN before you leave. But I think he even sells a course on how to do it. He's an IT guy. His channel's called Mexit Plans. He's out of Merida, and he's real big on that. How do you work remotely? And he even has there's a little modem. I actually have that model of modem that he uses because you can actually program the modem to connect you can actually connect your computer into the modem and it directly connects into the VPN without you having to actually do it with software. It actually, so everything all the traffic that goes through there, it connects them. And actually one of my routers have the same ability where I can actually connect to a VPN, remote VPN, and then I can actually assign certain devices to go through the VPN. But I did it at first when we first got here to Mexico, but like you said, you have to pay whack-a-mole because we just got to the point where, okay, I'm traveling. I'm going to just use the services here. We were playing hide and seek with Netflix and Prime, Amazon Prime, and I had to get into my router every single time and reprogram it. It just wasn't worth it after a while. 10 pesos per bottle for the returnable bottles for the 3-liter. Yes, that's correct. Gina. Oh, nerd. Oh no, it's the remote desktop. Yeah, I hear you, nerd. And there's a lot of services that do that. The only problem is if you have it set up on a computer, you have to have that remote desktop on all the time. The other issue you have is with speed and lag and that type of stuff. It works. I wouldn't doubt it, but that is a solution. But depending on the system, the other thing also that you can do, I don't know if many people have. There's these things called Shadow PC. And they're cloud-based PCs. Basically, you rent a cloud-based PC. You could probably do that. Rent a cloud-based PC. You install the software on it and everything, and basically you log in to that PC, but you're basically remote desktoping in a PC. A lot of people use that for gaming. I know that there's one called Shadow PC. I know that Microsoft's getting into that business now, where now technically you're going to have your computer in the cloud. They call it cloud computing. That's another thing, but I don't know, because probably they're going to start catching on to the cloud computing. I don't know, a company as small as Shadow PC, maybe your company's not going to have them. They're not going to have their IPs blacklisted, but someone like Microsoft, everybody knows their IP. You know, in the cyber world, people are going to know their IP leases and everything else. So I don't know if that's going to work, but it may work for a while. Gina, we're making our own taco seasoning, Chex Mix, French onion dip, ranch, buttermilk, dry, dirty rice, etc. Yeah, that's the thing. You know what? The one thing I'll tell you what, Gina, that's the thing about being in Mexico is adapting. Just like you guys are figuring out a way to make your own stuff. And actually, you make your own sourdough muffins. I've actually seen their pictures of those muffins. And your attempts to do it and everything, I followed that. And actually, that's another way of adapting is making those things and finding those ingredients and being able to just adapt. Okay, you might have answered this question before, but can you use the services like traveling mailbox for driver's license, voting, bank accounts, etc.? Actually, Gringos R Us said we do. For all the above, yeah. Actually, Gringos R Us, which is the service that you use, because there are some of them that are flagged that you can't do that. But I know that you were very successful in doing that, and I think you had some issues too when you were using some other mail forwarding services. Okay, Jesse, after moving there, is there a way to keep up with what areas are more dangerous and which are safer and which to avoid on a daily basis? Jesse, the best advice is the major places like Merida, San Miguel de Allende, Puerto Vallarta, let me see, Cancun. They're all going to have their issues. Mazatlan. Now, Mazatlan's in Sinaloa, but most people from Mazatlan, there's a big fear going on that, all the violence stays away from Mazatlan. I don't know how it is right now, but probably your best bet, what we did when we got here to San Miguel de Allende, we made a lot of friends. And we're talking about friends. When we talked about friends, everything from the construction workers to the local people here to our neighbors. And you just ask questions. Where shouldn't I go? What's a good place to go? What's not a good place to go? Where should I hang out? Just stick to the places that are known in that area to be safe. Just like in San Miguel, I know that I can go to the Centro, and then if I'm going to go venture to meet someone in a certain neighborhood, then I start asking, well, is this neighborhood okay or not okay? So that's the best way to do it. It's being informed. Just join the local Facebook group in the area and tell them I'm going to, I don't know, El San Antonio tomorrow. Is that okay? And most people say, I'll stay away from that area. That's the best way to communicate which places are safer. As far as what I would look at, here's the only issue with that is look at the State Department warnings. People will tell you to ignore the State Department warnings. No, don't ignore the State Department warnings. They usually have a reasons why. And I know this because I was attached to the State Department. And I've actually submitted some of the suggestion when I was in Brazil of places to go or not to go, and actually came out as travel advisories. I actually was part of that working group that would figure out or send suggestions. We used to call it the Law Enforcement Working Group. Now, here's the thing. The only thing with, for example, Guanajuato, where it is a state that's on the State Department list for crime and violence. Well, guess what? San Miguel happens to be in the state of Guanajuato. So I know that there have been some issues where people say, don't go to San Miguel, it's in Guanajuato, there's a travel advisory. San Miguel is just fine. It's the outside, it's the state of Guanajuato that San Miguel's in that is having issues. So you just got to kind of think, you just got to kind of look at that. But most of the time, your travel advisories, like don't be in Tamaulipas, don't be in Baja, not in Baja, well, certain areas in Baja or Tijuana. Yes, they're going to be a little bit more dangerous. So that's another good place to look. I know people say, ignore it. They're just trying to scare you. Trust me, there are reasons why those warnings are put out. Those travel advisories are put out. No, I will say that the State Department errs on the side of caution more than they do on a don't worry about it. So you have to take those warnings with a grain of salt, just like I said, too. As a matter of fact, last year I helped a group. I was translated for a group of nurses out of Canada. And this year they can't come to San Miguel because Guanajuato has a travel advisory, but there's nothing going on in San Miguel right now. I'm going to have to buy a car in Mexico because because I'm a permanent resident and you guys will have too soon in the future. I remember the video, 2 travelers in Mexico returning to sell their car. Yeah, actually, I'm a permanent and we have a Mexican vehicle. 2 more years, Tom. Let's see here. Nerd Uno. I heard the other day which mentions chocolate car importation was extended for another 2 years. And the requirement is that the vehicle been before October 2021 has been ignored. I didn't know that it's been extended. Now that's the other thing, nerd, that on that chocolate car, it was being run by the states. Also, down here in Guanajuato, I didn't know about this, but they have this thing called UCD plates. U as in union, CD plates. You can actually bring an American vehicle, but I think it's got to be older than 2017. You can actually get license plates for your American vehicle in the state of Guanajuato. But here's the thing. You can only travel through Guanajuato, Querétaro, and I think Michoacán. There's only 3 states that you can have the car in. You can't take it like back to the States or drive through Monterrey, it's sort of like the free zone in Quintana Roo, where if you get your American vehicle there, you could drive it around all you want to, but you can't leave Quintana Roo. So that's a thing. I don't know if the UCD plates, I know they exist here. I just found out about it not too long ago. And someone was telling me, yeah, we're going to get UCD plates. And I actually had someone coming by a table from me that had UCD plates. And I just learned about that. What actually, Gina, I'm using to generate, I'm actually using ChatGPT, but the actual AI engine that ChatGPT uses is DALL-E, DALLE, DALL-E. And I also have one that generates on my Mac. It's actually a local image generation model. It runs Stable Diffusion and a couple of other models. Flux, I think it is, that I have created. But I've had the best luck with ChatGPT 4.0, 4.0, the 4.0, little o or whatever it is, and using the DALL-E engine. And I've got, a lot of use out of ChatGPT, so we subscribe to it. It's a subscription, of course, for the Pro. But I think the image, if you use ChatGPT 4, the only thing is you have to regenerate a bunch of times, and you got it just the way you prompt it. So, but that's what I'm using to do my thumbnails. Okay, Gina, yes, this is the way you had issues. We had issues with our driver's license with it in South Dakota, so we used Dakota Post for that. But ultimately, we dropped Dakota Post and kept traveling mailbox, less expensive. Okay, that I know that you had a bunch of. I know that you had a bunch of issues, but like I said, I haven't really messed with the traveling stuff, the traveling mailbox stuff, that much. Great question, Gina. Awesome thumbnails. Thanks. Dying to retire. Okay, AMLO in. Yeah, so you're saying that AMLO is telling them to keep up with the chocolate cars. I haven't really uh, read anything about the chocolate cars. Okay, cool. I use Dollar Two, and I recently got Midjourney. Yeah, actually, Gina, Midjourney is good. I mean, I play around with it, and I really love it. But I'll tell you what, Midjourney is good. Now, if you don't use text, Dolly's getting a lot better with text. Just like you see that Discover Mexico live Q&A, when you put text in the prompt, like you say, put this in quotes or whatever, you get a better result. I've noticed. At first, when AI first came out, what I would do is generate the images without text and then put my text in with a photo editor. But Dolly is getting a lot better with the text prompts. So okay, and Nerd, you were saying you got a service in Laredo. You know what? We have a service here in San Miguel that's the same thing. It's a Laredo service, and they actually physically bring the mail down here. They make a trip once a week and physically bring everything, boxes, mail, everything. So just yeah, Midjourney is cool, Jesse. I have to I have to admit, it makes them pretty. Actually, if you look at my background, the background that I'm using right now, this bookcase was created with Midjourney. Well, with a little bit of photo editing too, but the my background was done with Midjourney. You people to text that for me. I don't know what you're talking about. Actually, Tom, they're artificial intelligence. You just basically say it's a programs. They're and just to make it simple. What we're talking about is image generation. So you just say create an image of Mexico, San Miguel de Allende, with on a summer day, blah blah blah, and it generates an image. There's a bunch of services that do that. So looks like I'm over my hour time. So I'm going to wrap it up. Like I said, I'm glad to see you guys here. Thank you very much for joining my live streams. Uh, and I really appreciate you guys, like I said, and sticking with me. Like I said, I haven't done a lot of videos, but I like to keep in contact. I love, um, I love the fact that our groups aren't so big, or I don't have hundreds of people in here or thousands of people in here. Uh, I don't do this for a living, like I've always said. We've created a nice sized community, and this isn't just a community for me to answer your questions. It's a community for you guys to answer each other's questions if I don't know what's going on. That's what's the beauty of this, and I plan to keep it going. I haven't been able to do it at 100% like I normally do, um, but I'm getting there. I'm getting there. Once I get my house fixed, I will, and I'll try to get a video out this week. I really will, for your entertainment and everything else. And like I said, it doesn't matter to me. I get, like I said, I get good questions here. Also, someone did ask me, they wanted my, WhatsApp or email. They want to ask a question in private. You don't want to ask a question in person here, then you can actually email me at info@retiredlifeinmexiconoble.com. I don't give out my WhatsApp number or whatever, but I do consultations. That's where you can request a free consultation. I don't charge anything, and I don't try to sell anybody anything. It just has to be on my schedule when I can do it. I have a calendar, an agenda program where you can schedule once you reach out to me and I approve you for a free consultation. But if I can answer your question, I will. But like I always get so many emails and so many Facebook questions. I try to get back to all of them, but I try to get back to all of them, but I can't. This is the best way to get a hold of me because I'm live and you can ask me right here any questions you want to ask me. And not only that, but you have a group of people that's able to answer your questions, not just me. So thank you so much for joining me. And until next time, like I always say, stay safe and stay informed.